Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus Today. Tacitus Today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the invasion of the video game industry, or the entertainment industry, but particularly video game industry in this essay, and how governments, World Economic Forum, the BlackRock, pretty much every globalizing and globalization force, the media in the world, is all coordinating and scripting and getting behind propaganda being incessantly pushed at us. And of course, the gaming industry is one of these, probably since the Gamergate drama some years ago, but it's intensifying and has intensified quite substantially in sort of around the time of COVID, when more people were staying at home and video games were taking up a bigger part of more eyeballs looking at it for longer. And so it was decided, obviously by the globalist cabal, hey, we got to ramp up the propaganda here. We got to turn video gaming into a full-on globalist propaganda delivery system, because a lot of eyeballs have been taken there naturally through natural forces. So we have to make it as unnatural as possible and inject it with fuckloads of socially divisive propaganda, which they're certainly doing and going at it pretty hard. There's a number of sort of tentacles and threads that come together to make this happen. So this is what I'm going to talk about in this essay. Now, a friend of mine, someone I know, makes sort of short documentary type programs for one of the media outlets. Now it's if you like, it's a sub channel of this wider media company, and it's one that they don't really inject a whole lot of propaganda, and it's kind of just entertainment. It doesn't attract many eyeballs, which is why they don't view it as a propaganda essential. If there's a lot of eyeballs go to it, then we got to really hit that with propaganda. But there's not many people looking at it. They kind of don't care, or don't care as much. Anyway, this particular channel started a series of sort of half-hour-long type documentary programs that were reasonably well done. They were quite, the camera work was good, the voicing was good, scripting was very neutral. They were talking about facts and so on. And so nobody even thought about it as a propaganda delivery system, but they were surprised, the studio was surprised when they saw the viewer numbers. They expected, viewerships of 50,000 or something like this. And it was kind of just a spare bit of the budget that was left over from something else they thought they'd do these programs with, but they put some pretty good people on it, did a good job. So instead of getting 50,000 viewers, they were looking at 550,000 viewers. It caught them completely by surprise. And so what do they do when they get these good numbers? They think, wow, we're onto something here. Let's put some more money into the budget. Let's make maybe some even better programs. Let's continue with this. Let's see if we can really build up this viewership and have some great programs. There's some quality programming at that. No. That is not what they thought. That didn't even cross their minds. What they decided to do was, we got to absolutely hammer the living fuck out of it with anti-white, anti-male, anti-cis male, and we got to stick LGBTQ propaganda in there. We stick feminist propaganda, race propaganda. We got a fucking avalanche propaganda into this, because we've got eyeballs there. And if we've got eyeballs there, then we've got an opportunity to influence people, and that's what it is. We must turn this quality program that people want to watch into a propaganda delivery system. Now, they only had a few episodes out, and that was it. Bang! They came in with the propaganda, and suddenly the viewers went away. They went from 500 or so thousand views. It suddenly dropped to like less than the original 50,000 they'd anticipated. So it just absolutely withered away. Now, is this because of the propaganda? Well, of course it's because of the propaganda. There's no question about that. But did they look at it that way? The ideological hacks, goons, stooges and fanatics saw this quite differently. Well, that the fact that the viewerships dropped away like this, it just means that we have to double down, because it proves that the whole nation and all the viewers are fucking Nazis, fascist, fucking. They're all Hitler personally Hitler. And so that just shows how much more work we have to do to convert these Nazis and to root them out, to punish them and crush them. So this is what we have to do. So they didn't see. Now I know one of the people who was on the program, and I wouldn't say she's a radical fanatic. She's certainly very sympathetic to LGBTQ and so on, and certainly wouldn't oppose it if it was pushed. But I wouldn't think she was the cheerleader or the firebrand who was behind it in any way. So, but we were talking about. Yeah, she was complaining about the lost viewership. They had a lot of viewers, now they had sort of none, and isn't that terrible? And I was, sure, I get that. So I said, well, why don't you protect the brands? Why don't you do and I'm suggesting this just as a sort of putting it out there type thing, was to say, why don't you produce a program, similar on a similar subject, and just have it absolute, say this is the woke version, this is the gay lesbian friendly version or the trans friendly, and you stack that propaganda beginning to end, and you just announce, say, hey, this is for you out there, you gay, trans, lesbian, radical feminist, that this is for you, and we're making it especially for you, and so on. So she's, I mean, this is the weird sort of dysfunctional logic and hypocrisy these people have. She said, well, if we do that, nobody would watch it. If we declare that it's propaganda, and it's for the LGBT, nobody will watch it. Even the LGBTQ people are unlikely to watch it. So, okay, all right, let's accept that. Let's accept that view there. Why would you then inject a successful franchise or a successful series of programs with that propaganda when you yourself admit nobody will watch it if they know that it's got that propaganda? And so no, we have to insert the propaganda quietly and silently. We don't tell anybody we're doing it. And in that way, we can use the popularity of a program that people think is going to be without propaganda. And then we inject the propaganda. We just hope they won't notice it. They won't notice it. Ham-fisted, heavy-handed, beat them over the head, fucking gay, lesbian, trans propaganda, and you're hoping they won't notice it, and it's going to somehow change their minds. Well, all the viewers are Nazis; they're all fucking Hitler, and we have to change their minds. And so we're allowed to do whatever we want in that, because we've got a much higher cause, a higher purpose, and like all ideology, and again, I wouldn't rate her at the fanatical end of the scale, but all ideological sort of fanatics and idiots and so on, they seem to see it that way, that no matter how hard they push outrageous and insane propaganda, it's if people don't receive it well or don't accept it or aren't converted by it, they are the problem, not the propagandists. And so they can engage us over the time and then double down, and then double upon double down, triple down, and so on. So she just simply wouldn't have it that and she's, I suspect, one of the more moderate voices in there. She simply wouldn't have it that they have to create a separate program to satisfy the fanatics. Now, to me, that's perfectly logical. If you claim to have a viewership or a readership or whatever game playing base out there that's going to that wants that sort of gay, lesbian propaganda, feminist propaganda, race, gender hustling, and all that sort of thing, then make it for them. Do it. If there are that many people out there as you claim who want it, do it. But they're actually not pitching towards a market that they think exists, that they pretend that's one of their considerations. But really, it's not. They're there to influence and to propagandize. They're not there to deliver something that the public wants, needs, or is asking for. And we need to understand that. So coming back to the games now, the business of propaganda is the globalists. The globalists cannot sell the globalist product. They just can't. It's got no upside for Western citizens at all. Globalization only offers downside. We're going to have a lower standard of living, a lower quality of life. We're going to live a more difficult life, a more challenged existence. People are going to die from lack of medical care. People are going to be euthanized because they can't afford the medical. I mean, we're heading towards what we would have considered an apocalypse, 30, 40 years ago, but we're heading towards it at a certain rate. Now, the globalists try and dress this up as, well, let's not even talk about your declining standard of living. Let's talk about how we're going to support trans rights or gay rights or, I don't know, abortion rights or lesbian rights, or how we're offering lesbian dance courses in university. Everyone's going to have a degree, and wow, and let's talk about that. Social equality and affirmative action, race gender quotas, and so people are going to have a more equitable race to the bottom than maybe they would have had. But this is because globalization is completely unsaleable. They have to dress it up as being a gay rights thing. We're supporting feminists and we're supporting gay rights and yada yada. So they can appear to be virtuous while at the same time destroying, with much determination and commitment and focus, destroying our standard of living. So there's the entire globalist cabal is heavily invested in where are the eyeballs going? Where are the eyeballs? We have to go there and we have to propagandize the living shit out of where those eyeballs go. And of course, games is one of those. Now, this particularly became an issue during the COVID thing, and probably wasn't really seen. The scale of it maybe wasn't sort of appreciated, but you can sense that since COVID, the globalists have been absolutely hyperventilating over getting into and propagandizing games. I don't see it so much. I've got some. I'm not a big gamer, but I've got some strategy games, mainly strategy games like the tank battles of World War II or something. And there's no real sort of scope for putting woke into that. But any fantasy game or anything where you've got characters that you're creating to sort of play a central role in the game, shoot 'em up games, all that sort of thing, that they do provide scope for putting ridiculous girl boss and other silly propaganda into it. So they're the games that target, and I don't really play those games. I know people who do, but I don't. So I don't have a whole lot of first-hand knowledge on this, but certainly looking at some of the shorts and vids and snapshots around the place of how they try to do the girl boss thing. No, not simply the girl boss thing and the gay black guy or something. It's not just that, but they directly attempt to crush and humiliate white male icons. That's the bit that I find strange. But if you look at it in context of the globalization, while they're crushing the straight white male icon in the games, then you've got politicians and media running around and saying, well, the biggest threat to us is white supremacy, white men, white supremacists, evil fascists, Hitler. That's the constant refrain you get from all across the Western world, whether it's in Australia or Britain, United States, Canada, all across the Western world. There's all these white supremacists, these neo-Nazis. They're just everywhere. You can't see them. You don't hear them. You don't know of one. You don't know anyone who knows of one. But they're everywhere, which is the same as any ideological government does that, because if they're ideological government, they're imposing government on the people without the people's consent. So you have to pretend, as all ideological governments do, you have to pretend that that there's a greater evil and menace out there just lurking, just out of view, and you're going to protect the people from that. And it's this made up sort of phantoms and ghosts and so on, and this is again any and all ideological governments do this, and the globalists are certainly ideological, and what they're trying to do is being imposed upon us without our consent. Hence the level and intensity and hysteria, I would argue, of the propaganda. But we need to look at just how big the globalist cabal is now. They control the mainstream media. They have a pretty tight control on a lot of social media, not as much obviously as they would like, and they have a lot of control of the backroom machinery of all forms of production and financing in particular. So I just want to mention that. Now, there's a couple of things I'll cover here, just the influence, or again, the backroom machinations of creating woke and the woke manifestation, pushing race, gender, hustling, and so on. Now, I was talking to a CEO who they have a lot of government contracts. In fact, it's primarily government work that his business sort of survives on. Probably 3/4, maybe somewhere around there. It's all government work. Now, it's not a huge company. He was maybe 80, 90 employees, somewhere around there. And so he got a fairly decent sized government contract. And so his employees went up to, like 150 or thereabouts. And so he suddenly found that when he sort of went to 150 employees, it's like the entire political ideological commissariat descended upon him, and he was quite taken aback by this. And suddenly he's got people sending him forms saying, well, if you want another government contract, you better tell us how many, the proverbial black lesbian, how many black lesbians you've got on your board of directors, and how many trans people you've got, and do you have trans friendly policies? What are those policies? And do you have 50% non-white? Is half your management female, and half of those non-white, and so on? So suddenly he's got all these requirements. If he wants more government contracts, especially on the size, because he was getting fairly small ones. When I say small, I don't know, 100,000 or less or something, but he got a big one, like a few $1 million, and that jumped him into sort of the next category. And it was so they were getting in his face so much, and there were so many demands upon him for engaging in full-on hysterical wokeism, that he's not naturally inclined to that way of thinking, far from it. And he did have brown people working there, but it wasn't at the required percentage. And they were mainly casuals and so on. So all his full-time employees were straight white people. There were some women, but straight white people. He's a straight white guy. The guy is sort of like the EVP of the company, or the general manager sort of type guy. He's a white guy, and the operations manager is a white girl and a woman, and so on. So he couldn't tick all the boxes. A lot of pressure, and so he's having, as he tells me, he's having a conversation with one. I'm saying, well, look, what do I do? Do I just get rid of the white people and replace them with brown people? Well, it's up to you, but this is what why not? What's wrong with that? These white people, they'll be fine. They'll be able to look after themselves. So why not give those jobs to a brown person? That type of thing. So, and he was sort of thrown by this very but also the quite sinister thing of just get rid of the white people. Gee, why are we even debating this? Just get rid of them. Replace them with brown lesbians. And he was quite put out by what he perceived, quite rightly, by the way, he perceived was a very sinister tone there. So when we look at the wokeification of the games industry, we need to look at firstly, there's the government, and government through social security agencies and all sorts of other agencies, which have now been converted from looking after the people to looking after the woke agenda, and that's a very different thing. So, and on top of that, financing. So during COVID, the government was giving finance to certain companies. They seem to be a little bit selective. You could have the minimum amount, but they were quite selective in looking at companies that met the diversity, equity, inclusion, affirmative action type agenda. You could get more money there, and the government was less pushy about getting that money back. So, I noticed in businesses where they were given, handouts during the COVID lockdowns, and lockdowns were quite unnecessary, by the way, and also were part of the wealth transfer away from the citizens into the pockets of the cabal. They were giving relatively small amounts of money, then demanding that money was paid back. It wasn't clear when the money was handed out that it wanted to be paid, but even that's been selective. The business owned by the black lesbian doesn't have to pay it back. Businesses that have more than 50% black lesbian management don't have to pay it back. White businesses do. So there's quite a lot of selective treatment there. So it's almost a punishment for white businesses and a break for non-white businesses or businesses that are following the DEI agenda. So that's one thing about government funding, and the amount of programs and funding programs that are available to businesses that take on DEI is also quite extensive. Things that you can't get to if you don't have DEI, unless your company is registered, on a DEI sort of panel of suppliers and so on. Then you're not eligible for a lot of government contracts, whether it be local or federal or state or anything like that. So, again, your ability to earn revenue is quite substantially impacted. As soon as you get over 100 employees, that's like the threshold. As soon as you're in a larger business, you're obligated to do it. Otherwise, you can't get access to government business. They may not say it directly. It's just that you don't ever get to be the final tenderer, if you like, when you're tendering or quoting for government business, whereas the firm of Black Lesbians does. And I've encountered this directly from our business. The amount of times that it's sort of been said as you're sitting in front of the affirmative action flunky stooge, 2-bit low IQ hire who's like in charge of selecting the winning tenderer, how many Black lesbians do you employ, Billy Bob? Would you say it's more than half? Why not? Why is your whole team here with the three of you? Why are you all straight white males? As if that's some sort of a crime that we have to account for and explain or apologise for. It's insane. And again, you're having a deal with affirmative action hire who's got an IQ of like 0.5 million. I mean, who's just an ideological hack fanatic. So there's that. But also we look at finance now. Something I didn't realize until recently was big finance, whether it be BlackRock or others, has got special ESG DEI financing. And so if you say that you've got or promise to get either one, lots of Black lesbians, or it's not that you have to hire the Black lesbians. That's not the point. The point is you have to get rid of straight white guys. That's really the subtext of this. And if you promise, yep, I'll fire a shitload of well-qualified straight white guys, then, okay, well, you can access ESG DEI financing. Now, everyone else is paying, for example, 5% interest on it, but we'll give you this 2% interest. Not only will we give you this money at a lower interest rate, we'll give you more favourable terms. So if you can't make a payment, there'll be no penalty fees. If you want to delay a payment, if you want to stretch it out from 2 years repayment to 3 or 4 or 5 years, then we'll do that. So there's a huge amount of extra flexibility in the repayments and a lower interest rates, and also clauses in there where they'll forgive a certain amount of it if the owner of the business or the CEO is a Black lesbian. So, and I saw one of these recently, a guy who identifies as he's a brown guy, identifies as gay. I'm not sure he is gay actually, but anyway, he identifies as that, and he got a $3 or $4 million loan from one of these ESG type loan agreement things, DEI agreement, and he had to agree to hire a certain amount of Black people and brown people, and then if the whole business folded, he only had to pay back 10% of it. So he was actually only on the hook for 10%. So he borrows, I think it was 3 million, but 3 million, and the whole thing goes to shit. Then he only has to pay back 300,000. Now he's bought like a warehouse with some of that money. And that's worth more than 300. So really, they just need to claim back. They'll just say, well, we're taking that warehouse. He walks away scot-free. He doesn't owe anyone a penny. And he doesn't have to make payments on a tight schedule. If you miss a payment, the bank will come in and take over your business, or you got to file Chapter 11, or you get foreclosed, or something. None of that. So very favourable terms. So he has to go out and hire a bunch of Black folks to get that, to cement or seal the deal, if you were. But those people he hired were extra, not he didn't have to get rid of white people. But nonetheless, it illustrates the point here. So you get governments coercing you. You're being threatened and harassed all the time, ideologically, and harassed with bits of paper and so on. You get governments saying, well, we're not even going to let you bid for this business unless you've got DEI, ESG, and the condition is you must get rid of straight white. You must fire. You must throw them out the door, get rid of straight white people, particularly straight white males, and replace them with affirmative action, proverbial black lesbians. And then you've got the financing. Now, another thing I've noticed too is that if you've got a straight white male owned, controlled and managed company, the banks will, it's not a written policy, but they'll effectively stall and not loan you money, even if it's a good financial bet, that they won't loan you money. Whereas, they might say, well, we're thinking about it. It's just being reviewed by the committee. Look, if you hire a couple of black lesbians, we can probably swing this for you. So not only can you get finance, but the finance will be at a much better rate and a far more flexible repayment terms. So the forces trying to push ESG, DEI, affirmative action, race, gender quota, hiring, all that sort of thing, that the companies, businesses are being assailed from all sides. And right, I mean, they're 360 degrees, they're surrounded, and they're being told from all sides, get rid of straight white males and your life will be much easier. You'll have access to government business, you'll have access to cheaper loans, more flexible loans, you'll have access to much lower and lesser accountability for repayment, you'll have access to more government programs where we'll subsidize you and give you, we'll give you this $10 million provided you agree to have enforced black lesbian training every day, to tell white people how evil they are. So the pressure is everywhere and endless at all sides. And the only way you can escape that is to have a small business where you don't meet the threshold that they want to come after you. If you've only got 20 employees, you're not worth bothering about. But there's those businesses that the globalists want to close down and force everyone into the arms of the bigger organizations, which they can control and which they can force to. Now, forced propaganda is sort of something that people must be forced to look at this propaganda. They can't take the chance that people may switch it off, which is why they want to control all information, all visuals, all entertainment, everything, same as in 1984, everything must be controlled. They don't want people having any option to switch it off or go to look at something else or go to somewhere where they can be unaffected by the propaganda delivery system. They want complete control of it, and people must be forced to watch. I remember a few years ago, there was a big push in women's sports to have that women should be doing wrestling and martial arts and those sorts of physical contact type sports. And I think this was, I can't remember if this was a first year college or senior high school, but they wanted to, boys wouldn't watch girls wrestling, they wouldn't take it seriously unless the girl was hot, but they wouldn't take it seriously and thought it was all pretty silly, which if you've been involved in martial arts and everything, it is. But they had the school had this thing where they threatened to fail any male sports student or even other students like sociology type subjects. They threatened to fail any student that did not turn up to a forced piece of propaganda wrestling match. So they had this, the deal was that they had this girl wrestler against a boy wrestler, and it was pre-scripted the girl wrestler was going to win, and this was going to legitimize girls wrestling, and it was going to show that girl bosses, girls can beat boys and so on. So instead of picking, they picked the girl champion amongst girls. They picked the girl champion. Did they pick the boy champion? No. Did they even pick a competent boy wrestler? No. So they got this skinny, scrawny, dorky-looking fucking guy that would have fallen over in a light breeze, and they picked him to wrestle a girl. He was like offered up as a lamb for the slaughter. And the girl who must have been doing serious time in the gym, I mean, she was a fucking fit, strong girl. And they put this pathetic, scrawny little boy there, and she beat the shit out of him. And then the teachers jumped up and down, cheered and waved their hands. I mean, what a pathetic fucking display. But the thing was that they knew that the people, the boys and the people wouldn't come to watch it, so they had to threaten them with failure in their subjects if they didn't come along to watch this. And this would show those straight white male boys just how tough the girl bosses were. Of course, it's nothing of the sort. It was pure fucking ridiculous, stage managed, rigged game propaganda. A bit like the 2020 presidential election. Oh, no, I didn't mean that. So this was this is the lengths they go to, and this is how they perceive their propaganda. You must be forced to watch it. And they have this insane idea it'll somehow change your mind or influence the way you think or something like that. I look at this sort of stuff and think, what an absolute utter nonsense, and you all should too. Being a Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.